What is up, YouTube? This is Zach with Dream Media Home Theater. If you guys are not a subscriber already, make sure you smash that subscribe button down below and give us a big thumbs up on this video. We got a Ask the Pros video here today, a very common question. Processors versus receivers. Pre-pros? Do you even know what those are? Well, we're going to take a little deep dive into it today. We're going to talk about the pros and the cons. Anyways, if you guys would like to purchase anything home theater related, make sure to reach out today and utilize our free consultation service. My guys are on standby, ready to do a FaceTime video with you, a video call, and walk your space, assess your budget, and optimize your experience. So let's get into this video. Welcome back, guys. Processor versus receiver. Two separate units or one unit that does it all? We're going to take a deep dive into another Ask the Pros video. I got Kellen, our National Sales Director, and Dave, our Sales Advisor, here on the Zoom. We are going to get into it. Dave, kick us off.
Yeah, I think that's always one of the questions, right? I mean, obviously receivers are convenient. You know, it's everything in one box. As with a lot of things, when you try to have one device do too many things, there's always going to be a compromise. Even as good as receiver amplification can be these days, I mean, that's always the instant upgrade path, right? Is tack another amplifier, a real amplifier, if you will, onto the back end of that. Well, one of the ways to really just kind of vault all of that is to go with separates. There are some separates out there, and I'm not going to name names, but there are some brands that are basically kind of mimic what you see in a receiver. They just happen to be in separate boxes. We don't really deal with that kind of stuff. The advantage primarily is that, you know, once you get a good amplifier, an actual standalone amplifier, in theory, that should be kind of a one and done purchase, unless it just, you know, you get bored with it or you get upgrade items, whatever the case might be. But they don't go obsolete. And that just kind of becomes a mainstay, just like a high quality projection screen. It becomes a mainstay in your theater that you won't have to upgrade unless, again, it gets damaged or you get bored. But there's not going to be anything that's going to force your hand. I mean, processing is what changes over time. But the advantage primarily there is the fact that, you know, a quality company is going to put a lot more time and effort into those devices because they're positioned, you know, frankly, as kind of the higher end choice. And so you're going to get better power supplies. You're going to get better thermal regulation. You don't have that amplifier sharing the same space as the delicate processing that's going on in the same chassis because you're separating the chassis. And again, in terms of an upgrade path, all you have to do, swap out the pre-pro down the road if you get the itch to do that. And you still have a phenomenal amplifier, at least in theory, on the back end. So you're not replacing the entire thing. Yes, you know, separates can, you know, carry a little bit more of a price tag than even a high-end receiver, but, you know, for anybody that's really enthusiastic about it, certainly anyone with a dedicated space, it's there's a reason why. The performance benefits are definitely obvious.
You hit the nail right on the head. I mean, it's an investment. I don't even think there's much more to say. You're going to get better performance. And it's something that you can have for many years to come. Kellen, is there anything else?
Yeah, I mean, there's really not too much more to add. You know, I just, you can get a good processor is pretty much, you know, just that. It processes the audio a lot better than, like Dave said, you get an all-in-one box type of receiver. There's a compromise somewhere. It's not going to have near the processing power nor the amplification as dedicated amps. And you know, just to add, you know, to customers, my experience, you know, I've always had conversations of people asking me, should I go to a receiver to separates? And obviously that question's, you know, in my opinion, yes, it's a lot better experience, but I've never had a conversation with a customer that's like, you know, I've had a good processor and I've had good amplifiers. I just want to go back to a receiver. I've never had that conversation. So if that's a tall tale to, you know, the application, you know, Dave said it, you know, a good processor, certainly good amplifiers the technology doesn't wear out in horsepower. Those amplifiers are going to be mainstays
speak about horsepower a little
for a long time.
Like, speak about horsepower a little bit, because I think in the industry, the average consumer is fooled a little bit based off of the specs that are advertised on receivers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You want to talk about that, Kellen?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time it's going to be, you know, 2 channels driven is the wattage that you see.
What does that mean?
And certainly, so if 2 channels within a receiver, most commonly, let's just use left and right for stereo. If you're listening to a stereo application, or if 2 channels are driven, if the advertised wattage is 125 watts per channel, 2 channels driven, you're going to get close to that 125 if only 2 channels of that 11 channel receiver are driven, or 9 channel receiver, or whatever. But once all 9 channels are driven during a movie with a, you know, chaotic scene going on, you know, all speakers, all channels are going to be firing. That number dips substantially. Some brands more than others. You know, you're looking at a 50 to 60% of that 120 or advertised wattage during 2 channels driven. So
yeah, and we're not saying there's anything wrong with receivers, because they definitely have their place. Receivers are an amazing value, really, just to get your system up and running. But there's a reason you don't have people going from separates to receivers, because whenever a amplifier is advertising 200 watts, as an example, per channel, it is 200 per speaker, not divided up among 11, 13 channels, whatever, 7 channels. You know, a receiver, it will advertise 140 watts, 125 watts, as Kellen stated, divided by 2 speakers. But you're not using that receiver to drive your 2-channel system. We have other products for that. So, Dave, do you have anything that you want to add in?
Yeah, there's one spec that a lot of typically separates companies will publish the spec. A lot of times receiver companies won't, and it's for good reason. And it gets a little in the weeds a little bit, but it's called damping factor. So think of damping factor as like shock absorbers on your car. You know, anything with high damping factor, you know, typically 200 or greater. You know, when you hit that pothole, you're going to go boop, boop, and you're going to pop right back to where it should be. The car remains under control. If you have low damping factor, you're going to be bouncing all over the place, and it's going to be a mess. So most AV receivers don't have fantastic damping factor. And what that means is, you know, how much of a grip does the amplifier have on those individual drivers and the speakers? Are they under control? Are they starting and stopping when you want them to, or are they kind of floating in space after the signal drops away? And one of the things that a good standalone amplifier has is nice and high damping factor. So that even translates to increased clarity at low levels, because, you know, you're getting a lot more responsiveness. You know, sometimes speakers they need a little bit more power to get going. You know, it's called efficiency, you know, so any speaker in that 80 to low 90 range could use a little bit more power, because it needs a little bit more muscle behind it to really get them going. And so, sure, anything can get loud, but really it comes down to what if you're listening at normal levels. People don't think about that a lot of times on the back end of that scale. So it's a better performance at all volume levels, and really in any application.
100% true, guys. I use verbiage all the time in my videos, specifically saying maximizing the potential of your system. And I think that really hits home whenever you're talking about processors, separates versus an AV receiver, especially as you get into more high-end systems. Well, that's a wrap, guys. I hope that this helped you in doing your research and making an educated buying decision. If you would like to purchase anything home theater related, guys, reach out today and utilize our free design service, our free consultation service. Our guys are going to FaceTime with you and walk through your space. We're going to optimize a system specifically to your budget and that space. So we love this stuff, guys. We'd love to talk with you, and we would love to create your dream home theater. That's all we got. If you like this video, give me a big thumbs up and smash that subscribe button down below for more. Till next time, this is Zach with Dream Media Home Theater with Kellen and Dave. Thanks for watching.